Hey, everybody. This is Troy over at Uncomfortable Truths. Thanks for checking me out. So, today we're talking about Jimmy Dore and Dr. Drew because they had a discussion where they were talking about the Dutch farmers that are protesting because there's been this weird movement all over the world to kind of shut down small farms, which I find to be really exceptionally cruel for a number of reasons. The first is obviously that it's going to hurt small independent farmers or people that are already struggling to kind of make ends meet. The second is that it makes people more reliant on the government and on big business because if you're not getting these products from a small farm, that means you're getting it from a giant factory farm. Well, governments tend to like that because it's easier to crack down on one source than a bunch of sources that might be smaller and spread out, over the country or all over the world. So this is done, of course, because they want to say that they're fighting climate change. Now, if you believe all of the climate stuff and that it's the end of the world as it has been told, fair enough, I guess. That's definitely your prerogative. However, I do think that we should all be able to agree that when it comes to dealing with some of these problems, there should be some immediate red flags when we're shutting down farmers. Now, I don't believe in solving any problem if that requires shutting down farms. If your solution is shutting down small farms, then you're probably on the wrong track. So I don't always agree with the left, but I do think that when there is overlap, it is extremely important that we point this out because there are people on the populist left that we on the populist right actually can work with so that we make sure that we're implementing reasonable policies that can protect ourselves, our countrymen, and really our country as a whole. And I think that we can definitely come together and say, yeah, absolutely not. You're not going to do to our farmers what they're trying to do to the Dutch farmers. It's unacceptable. And this isn't a partisan issue. We're just going to protect our farmers. And you can't try to use climate change or the Green New Deal or any of this horse shit as a weapon against us. So let's go ahead and listen to some of their interview, and then we'll come back for the reaction.
Question everything, including climate change. And what I tell people is that you can believe that carbon-based climate change is real, but I know for a fact that everything that the establishment proposes to fight that is ridiculous. Right now, they're trying to shut down Dutch farms. That's what they're saying is the problem. That's the problem.
So I 100% agree with Jimmy Dore on this issue. Now, this climate policy is really just something that's being used all across the world as a cudgel to attack people and to take their freedoms away. Notice that this always only cuts one direction. It's always rich people telling poor people how they need to live their lives and to take away freedom and opportunity every single time. So when it comes to cars, they want to make cars more expensive, or they want to make it to where people are less reliant on owning their own vehicles. Well, that might sound great on its face, but what they're saying is we want fewer people to be able to travel without us being able to control it. Because if you're making people go on a train or something, well, the train can only go on its tracks. So when you're telling people, well, we don't want these individual farms, we don't want them to be profitable, we're going to go ahead and make it more difficult by taxing them. They're doing a couple of things here. They're taking away one option for people to move away and start their own farm and be less economically reliant on the government. Well, that's a problem for them there. Also, if they're able to control their own food source in local communities, then maybe they aren't as reliant as the government would like them to be on a handful of giant industrial farms or giant industrial ranches. So when somebody tells you that there's going to be a problem that's solved by getting rid of independent farmers, you should immediately have every red flag in the world raised up. I will go as far as to say there is not a single serious problem in the world that can be solved by getting rid of or cutting down on independent farmers. Those people are heroes across the world, and there is no way in hell that getting rid of them is going to improve your life whatsoever. This whole thing is used just as an excuse to grab power. You have John Kerry out running around on his wife's private jet trying to tell you that you're not able to drive. Now, just think of how absurd this actually is. Now, I know people say it over and over, but think about it. They're saying you have to walk everywhere, and if it's not within walking distance, maybe you don't need to go. Maybe you shouldn't even take the train. This is absolutely ridiculous. If you want to live in a free world, then you are going to have to admit that, okay, well, sometimes we're going to have to let people do things that maybe I would rather they not do. For example, I happen to really not like bicyclists. They get on my nerves. They are always in the middle of the lane when there's a bike lane right next to you. They could be in the bike lane, but no, they want to hover right on that line as much as they can. Well, that's tough shit for me, isn't it? Sometimes you have to let people do things that you don't like or that you don't want to do. So even if everything they say about climate change is twice as bad as it is, I would still prefer to live in a world with climate change and independent farmers and ranchers than in a world without climate change and without independent farmers and ranchers, because I think that freedom is absolutely worth it. So, everybody, this is all I have on this issue. But keep in mind, if somebody is trying to tell you that you have to get rid of farmers in order to combat climate change, or you need to get rid of your car, or other people can't have air conditioning or electricity, what they're trying to do is lower your quality of life and not give you anything in return. And you deserve better, and you should not accept that. So, anyway, everybody, go ahead, hit like and subscribe. I appreciate the heck out of it, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.